Good morning, everyone. Hi, I am the Reverend Dr. Suzanne Trilligator, and welcome to Melrose Unitarian Universalist Church. Our service today is called Fire Up Your Creativity. I hope you're ready. Hello again, I'm Suzanne. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I am delighted to be the minister of this congregation. Thank you for joining us here on Zoom today. You are very welcome. We are a church of free thinkers and compassionate doers. To learn more about our church and our values, please visit our website at melroseuu.org. Our chat box host today is Rebecca Mooney, and she will share. Pardon? Is that for me? I don't know. Rebecca will share a link in the chat box now that will take you to our welcome page on the website so you can learn more about us and sign into our digital guest book. And you should feel free as well to use the chat box to say hello to people, especially during this welcoming time. And please also feel welcome to stay afterward for our virtual coffee hour. I have just a few announcements before we get started today. I hope that you will forgive me my home haircut. It's a little short, shorter than I thought, but these are COVID times and we have to roll with them, don't we? So just a few church announcements. We are going to get started with our discussion of the book On Tyranny in a few days. Please email Katie at dre@melroseuu.org if you want to get involved in the book discussion. Also, an important update, since we sent you the email news on Thursday, we've put together a brand new effort in support of the Melrose Warming Center, where our beloved member Nancy Free volunteers. She says that every night as many as 22 people gather there in the church building to get a meal, a safe place to sleep, and some warm clothes. So we may do a cash collection to support them soon, but for the next 2 weeks, we're looking to collect coats, scarves, blankets, and toiletries. All the details that you need to participate are in today's worship reminder. That's the email that was sent just this morning that had the worship link in it. If you go there and scroll down a little bit, you'll see all the info on the coat drive. I hope you can participate. There are places all over Melrose and some adjoining towns where you can drop things off, and we have a whole other set of volunteers to drive the stuff down to Malden. So thank you for that. You will help some people stay warm this winter. Another important announcement, 2 weeks from today is Valentine's Day, and we will have a special guest preacher and an afternoon workshop that day from 12:30 to 2:30. Now, I haven't asked for any extra time this year. This is a special occasion, and I hope that you'll consider coming. This is to continue our congregational conversation, which we started something like 2 years ago now, around gender and gender issues. We'll be asking, we have been asking ourselves, how can our welcome and our language and our programming reflect our openness to people who are trans or non-binary or gender non-conforming? So this will be a continuation of that conversation. For this worship and workshop together, we'll have a special well-trained facilitator who is also a non-binary person of UU faith. And they will help us to learn more about how to communicate about our own experiences of gender with deeper empathy and love. So it's totally appropriate for Valentine's Day. Our hearts are going to grow bigger on that day. I hope you'll be there. It's also going to be appropriate for middle school and high school youth. Please invite them. We know that ideas around gender are changing, and our young people bring a whole new perspective to this. So we welcome them into this conversation. Please mark your calendars and invite your youth. Today's service is going to be interactive and therefore maybe a bit unpredictable. Of course, you are welcome to participate as you feel comfortable. I warn you, there will be some doodling and some punning and probably some silliness, kind of like last week, except last week the pythons were being silly. This week, we might be a little silly. Don't worry, you do not have to draw or type or speak unless you want to, whenever you want to. As the song says, you got to do when the Spirit says do. So for now, I just want you to please prepare by getting yourself a few sheets of paper and some pens or pencils or markers in a few different colors so you can doodle when the Spirit moves you. One last thing, for those of you who have been asking me, when is the next Storytellers Workshop, when the kids tell us the story? Today's your lucky day. To celebrate creativity, our kids will once again set a high bar for us. Today they will make up 2 stories for us right here on the spot. And then they even put in their own homemade illustrations. So it's wonderful and you'll enjoy it. That's today, later on. If you have feedback about today's service, there are many ways that you can engage with us, with me and with our worship committee. First, you can stay here in the main room. Instead of going to a breakout after the service, I will be here and we can chat about the service. Second, you can fill out the feedback form, which is on the website. Rebecca can post a link to that now and at the end of the service too. Third, you can also join us in our weekly Worship Wednesday chat on Zoom. It's Wednesdays at noon and the link is in your midweek update. So now is the moment where we get to say hi to each other. Please, if you would, switch into gallery mode, scroll through and wave your hellos and send all your virtual hugs. Hi, everybody. Oh, I see lots of waves. Hi, everyone. Good to see you. Oh, bright smiles. Nobody else has a dumb haircut like me. You're all looking good. Hi, everyone. Good morning. Oh, and some kids too. Good to see everyone. Hi. Fantastic. And now to celebrate our theme of imagination and creativity, we have a lovely introit for you. This is one that Tara selected. She put it together at the very start of the pandemic with a bunch of other UU music directors. And it asks us to bless the world with our minds and our hearts and our hands. I guess we're having trouble sharing that video now. Is the introit video there, Josh? Now you got it. Thank you.
With our minds and our hearts and our hands, may we choose to bless the world. With our minds and our hearts and our hands, may we choose to bless the world. With our minds and our hearts and our hands, may we choose to bless the world. With our minds and our hearts and our hands, may we choose to bless the world. With our minds and our hearts and our hands, may we choose to bless the world. With our minds and our hearts and our hands, may we choose to bless the world. With our minds and our hearts and our hands, may we choose to bless the world. With our minds and our hearts and our hands, may we choose to bless the world.
That was so lovely. I call us to worship this morning with a lovely poem by my colleague, the Reverend Bob Janice Dillon. It's called Let the Artists Win. He writes, I vote we let the artists win, the ones covered in paint from their last attempt to smuggle across the beauty of a bowl of fruit. The 14-year-old rapper learning to spit. I say we let the food bank volunteers win, the ones always carrying around their agenda for the meeting, waging campaigns to stock shelves with bread. I would like to see the nurses extend their string of victories from the hospital bed to the nation's boardrooms until we care for each other as if death were inevitable and mercy was the only thing. I say we let the kindergarten teachers win as they raise up small edifices for the beauty words will never capture or reveal. I will let the grandmothers win when they tell the old stories that hold me in their keeping, and the children yelling, play, play, the ones who have already cost us so much of our final productivity. I want them to win too, again and again without pity. And then when the men with guns come, we can say, I'm sorry, but whether you win or lose, it's never really been my game, sir. I have lost and lost again 1,000 wars of the heart. And those to whom I waved the white flag, those to whom I have surrendered the whole and holy of my life will never, never let me go. Now with UUs everywhere, I light the symbol of our faith, the flaming chalice. This morning, Rebecca Mooney, who serves on our worship committee, will give the chalice lighting reading. Take it away, Rebecca.
Good morning. Our chalice reading today is from the Reverend Scott Taylor. In the soft light of this flame, may our lives shimmer anew. May we notice new possibility in those relationships that seem lost. May the turning of year give birth to a dream. May the emerging light pull a new story into view. May what is give way to what might be. May we believe again in the world we imagine.
Thank you, Rebecca. Wonderfully done. And now Tara is here to introduce our opening hymn. Take it away, Tara.
We asked our acting choir director, Beth Harris, to make a recording of Let It Be a Dance this morning as our opening hymn. She did a little research and discovered that the original version of this song has a very different feel than the one in our hymnal. Turns out that Rick Marston originally imagined this song as a guitar accompanied folk song with spoken word verses. So Beth and the choir have creatively followed his lead. In keeping with our theme this morning, please open your hearts and minds and voices and get ready to sing our opening hymn. Let it be a dance.
Let it be a dance with you. May I have this dance with you. The good times, the bad times too. Let it be a dance. One more time. Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you. The good times, the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Let a dancing song be heard. Play the music, say the words, and fill the sky with singing birds. And let it be a dance, let it be a dance, let it be a dance. Learn to follow, learn to lead. Feel the rhythm, feel the need. To reap the harvest, plant the seed. And let it be a dance, let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you. Through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Everybody turn and spin. Let your body learn to bend. And let the world lead the way. And let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. The child is born, the old must die. A time for joy, a time to cry. So take it as it passes by, and let it be a dance. Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you. For the good times and bad times too. Let it be a dance. The morning star comes out at night. Without the dark, there'd be no light. And if nothing's wrong, then nothing's right. So let it be a dance.
Share the laughter, bear the pain. Round and round we go again. So let it be a dance. Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you. In the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance we do.
Thank you, choir. Thank you, Beth. Now let us join together in the words of our covenant, followed by our song of aspiration. Was I unmuted there? Now it's time for our covenant, followed by our song of aspiration. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. This is our great covenant, one with another and with our God. And now it's time for our story. It's Storytellers Workshop. Please gather around your device for a lovely message from our kids.
Good morning. For Storytellers this month, we were inspired by the theme of imagination and Reverend Sumstan's sermon topic this morning about tapping into our creativity. And we decided what better way to showcase imagination than talking to our kids and having them create a story on the spot. So this morning, what you'll see is the kids sharing a little bit about how they use their imaginations. And then we used this story frame by Life is Good Playmakers that Beth found to give the kids some prompts to come up with their own stories. And finally, they're going to share a little bit about how that process felt to them and what it was like to use their creative thinking together like that. Hope you enjoy.
I always use my stuffed animals and toys to make up stories.
Basically, I usually imagine where I'm sitting right now, but just because I love to imagine so much, pretty much anywhere I will imagine.
Once upon a time, there was a mermaid named Stella who lived in Mermaid Cove and loved to explore.
Every day, Stella talks to animals and explores in scary, forgotten caves.
But one day, a giant monster came into the cave. Who swam towards Stella. She swam straight out of the cave and swam right back to hell.
Because of that, the monster got mad because he only liked brave mermaids and fish. So he went to Stella's house and tried to break in. But then Stella went outside and scared the monster away.
Until one day, Stella realized that the monster only wanted to be friends with her. She tried to remember where the cave was. When she finally remembered, she swam to the cave and tried to see where the monster was.
Stella found the monster and they talked for a bit. So ever since then, they were best friends, and Stella went to the cave very often to talk with the monster.
The moral of the story is sometimes you might not realize what people are feeling.
The moral of the story is that sometimes you have to be brave so you discover things that you haven't discovered before, and who knows, maybe good things could happen. Once upon a time, there was a little 7-year-old girl with really long hair. She always wore cowboy boots. She was a little bit shy, but she liked to climb trees and do stuff outdoors. Occasionally, she liked to bake with her mom.
Every day, she would pick up her cat Lily and head outdoors and climb a tree to see what was happening.
But one day, when she was climbing the tree, she spotted an old, small building. She ran over to see what was going on. She went inside in case someone was in there, and then she saw a big stable with a lot of cool horses.
Because of that, she jumped on a horse and rode out of the building. And she discovered she could see more on a horse than on a tree. So she started to go to the building every day and ride a horse.
Until one day, she was riding on one of her horses, and in the distance, she saw that the other horses run loose. So she speeded up to the horses, and she went so far that she discovered a new land that she didn't see before.
Instead, she would always go on a horse with her cat Lily and ride to the land to see all the other horses.
Moral of the story is, even if you're shy, if you find someone that has similar interests to you and is very kind, wonderful things can happen.
Don't let something that you feel affect the things that you like to do.
I liked that because it's so traditional, you can make it like your own fairy tale.
I liked not having to choose the story starter because I don't really know that many story starters.
So the thing is, because there's two people, you have to change what you're originally thinking a lot, because you can't someone says something and the other one says something completely different. So you have to be kind of open to changing your idea in the first place so it can go with the other person's idea.
Thank you so much, Katie and Beth and Viva and Allison. I just love that. In case you came in late and you missed the beginning of that, those are actually our kids coming into a Zoom meeting and answering prompts and actually writing a story together in real time. Katie edited it and the kids added in some illustrations later, but the actual creating of the story just happened right there in their creative little minds. And I'm going to see later on, if there's time, if any of us grown-ups are brave enough and creative enough to actually write a story in real time. That's a challenge. Let's see how it goes. So now we move on to the prayer portion of our service. Every Sunday in our worship, we take time for prayer, meditation, and shared silence. So please, this is the moment to settle into your chair and breathe. First, we share in our centering song, then we sit together in silence for a few moments, then we speak our joys and sorrows, and then today Katie will lead us in a prayer after that. First, the centering song, which reflects January's worship theme, Imagination. One more time, we'll hear Jenny sing John Lennon's Imagination, and then we'll go right into our 2 minutes of silence. Every week, we set aside time to share with one another the personal milestones of our lives, our joys and sorrows, so that we might accompany one another on the journey of life. So if you have a sorrow to share today, please type it into the chat box now, and I will read them aloud. From the Wright family, a candle of sorrow as we prepare to say goodbye to our kitty Autumn tomorrow. From Viva, a candle of love and support for my cousin Pam on bed rest after her baby boy tried to make too early of an arrival last week. From Adrian Wood, a candle of peace. That might be all the sorrows there are this week. From Vanessa, a candle of gratitude for all the love and support that has been sent to us with the birth of our baby, River Ann. From Adrian, a candle for my friend Tiffany, who undergoes surgery this week. Are there any other sorrows? Let us pause together and bring all these sorrows into our hearts. Let us hold them gently and with compassion. Let us send out our love and our care to all who have spoken and all who are troubled today. Let them feel our love, our concern, our desire to help. I light one new candle as a beacon of care for all the sorrows, spoken and unspoken today. And now I invite you to share any joys. Type them into the chat box and I will read them aloud. From Janice, joy, our daughter Carolyn and her husband Connor are moving into their new house in Wakefield this weekend. From Liz Folzer, a candle of joy and gratitude, I finished my radiation treatments for breast cancer this week. I am deeply grateful for excellent care and all the expressions of concern and support. From Harry and Jennifer, a candle of joy, Harry's work was accepted by a peer-reviewed journal on Friday. From Nyla, I've completed 19 out of 20 radiation treatments, almost done. From Doug Dick, Ann and I want to celebrate the 14 and a half years we had with our dog Cooper. He brought us much joy and touched the lives of many as a therapy dog. We miss him. From Erin Hoban-Audette, a candle of joy for finally securing vaccine appointments for my parents in Florida after several early morning online attempts. From Cheryl, a joy, received my second COVID vaccine this week. Are there any other joys we'd like to share this morning?
I think there's one more, Reverend Suzanne.
Okay, I don't see it yet. Oh, from Viva, a candle of joy for friends helping my mom get a vaccination soon. Yay. Thank you. By speaking aloud these joys, you help connect us to one another and to the joy of living. We celebrate along with you. I light now one more candle to shine out our thanks for all the blessings in our lives. now we have a special creativity prayer practice that Katie knows about and is going to lead us in today. Take it away, Katie.
Hi, everyone. So while we tend to think of prayer in a very specific way, there are actually many ways to pray. And in the spirit of creativity that this worship is exploring, I would like to share with you a spiritual prayer practice that I recently learned. It's called praying in color. And you will need paper and some different color writing implements, markers, pens, crayons, whatever you have available. And what you do is you call to mind something that you want to focus on. This could be a person that you want to pray for, or something that you want to invite more of into your life. And then you write that word or name in the center of your paper. After you have your word or name written, you use that as a shape and just draw around it. I'm going to keep talking for a bit, but feel free to get started when you think you've got it. Now, if you can only think of something that you want to let go of, think about what the opposite of that would be and write that down. So for example, when I first did this, all I could think of was how stuck I was feeling about a particular problem. Instead of focusing on the word stuck, I wrote down movement, because that's what I really wanted, was to have some movement around this problem. I have two examples of ones that I have done, if you're still not quite understanding what I'm saying. This is one that I did for movement. And this is one that I did for a friend that was going through a rough time. So you can see that they came out very different. There's no specific way that this needs to look when you're done. The key is to keep that intention of that word or name and tap into your heart space while you're drawing and praying. Let your creativity flow. Let your intentions and your prayers for spiritual health and growth rise up and out through your art. Enjoy.
That was neat. Feel free to continue on your prayer if you like while I'm speaking. Now is the time for our offertory. If you're moved by our worship this morning, I invite you to donate anytime during the service using the orange button in the top right corner of our homepage at melroseuu.org. Be sure to be clear whether your donation is plate collection or for your pledge, your yearly commitment to our church. Once you click on that, you'll go to a new page and it'll explain some of the updates that we've made in our system. In honor of Martin Luther King Day, half of our January collections will go to Black Lives of Unitarian Universalism. For our offertory music this morning, I looked for just the right song, and I asked around for help. Finally, I shared my problem with my son, Quinn, who is 15, and he suggested this video I'm about to share. It's by a 22-year-old trans artist, singer, and ukulele player who goes by the name Cavetown. Using a surprisingly non-digital art form, this song captures so much raw emotion and transforms it into real honest connection, I think. And the visual art that goes along with it, well, I think it's just an all-out celebration of creativity. So feel free to comment in the chat if you like it. Feel free to watch or to keep going with your prayer. The song is called Home by Cavetown. I have one reading to share with you this morning, and it's a very short one. To me, it's a great frame for the whole service. Josh, if you would share that slide now. It's there. From Thomas More's book, The Reenchantment of Everyday Life. We tend to consider imagination too lightly, forgetting that the life we make for ourselves individually and for the world as a whole is shaped and limited only by the parameters of our imagination. Things are as we imagine them to be, as we imagine them into existence. So today is January 31st, the 5th Sunday in January. It feels like a really long month, like 5 months in one. You might remember that our worship theme is imagination, and we started it off on January 3rd, imagining a new year. Then on January 10th, the next Sunday, our plan was to really kick off that theme by playing some creativity games here live in the worship service. But that didn't happen because on January 6th, something that had been to many of us previously unimaginable happened in Washington. And it didn't feel quite right to have such an upbeat worship service after that. But I promised you on that Sunday that we would come back around, that we would save those creativities games for another time, and that's today. So instead of talking too much about creativity, I thought we would just try to summon it, try to feel it and experience it together here in worship. So yes, this will be participatory, but it'll be what you make it. So if you would try again with me, please, to get your paper and your markers or your pens of at least 2 different colors back out again. We're going to give it another go, do something different from Katie's excellent prayer. So if you would take a fresh sheet of paper and a plain color and just make this shape. Now, I'm not going to describe it because I don't want to curtail your curiosity in any way. Now, once you're done making this shape, I want you to look at your paper and turn it around. Turn it sideways, turn it upside down, and just let your imagination go. What is this shape? What could it be? It could be lots of different things. So the second part of this challenge is to turn the paper some other way, take a different color, and turn this into something. Anything, a flight of fantasy. You get 2 minutes. And you don't have to show it to anybody if you don't want to. But if you do want to, there will be a time to do that. So take 2 minutes now and sketch something, whatever you like, in the second color, so we can still see this original thing, and we can see the difference. Go. Josh is going to play us a little music to doodle by, a repeat of this morning's prelude. It's nice and airy music. Get you in the mood. I started my 2-minute timer. About 30 seconds left. I know it's not a lot of time, but don't take it too seriously. Okay, go ahead and finish it up. Don't get stressed about it. It's just some silliness. out my sand timer here. I think that's about 5 seconds, 10 seconds, something like that. Or maybe my sand timer is blocked. I don't know. All right, well, I think it might be blocked actually. Let's call that 2 minutes. Okay, so, you know, if you didn't get something, that's fine too. The idea is not to be stressed out, but if you did come up with something and you want to share it, I'm going to invite you to hold it up and we'll go to gallery view and we can see just all the different ideas that we had. Ooh, somebody else shared my idea. I've got a pumpkin here, like a Halloween jack-o'-lantern thing. And that original shape is there in the teeth. Somebody else had the same idea too. I can see that. Oh, I see a castle. I see another pumpkin. Oh, I see another castle. Oh, I see some skyscrapers. Somebody looks like Bart Simpson. I love all these different ideas. Oh, one of them on fire. Oh, these are so cool. These are really cool. How fun. Is there anybody there who might want to unmute and tell us one sentence about what you drew?
I just wanted to say, after talking about what a month we've been, I have a woman there who is holding up her hands and saying, "We made it."
Yes, we did. Thank you, Beth.
I
Anyone? Laura, go ahead.
This is my drawing. I drew a mermaid and a unicorn. The unicorn was the original thing.
Oh, I see. Yeah, the unicorn has legs made out of that original shape. Very cool.
I had the fourth.
Anybody else want to tell us a little about their drawing?
I made, whoops, it was a castle at first. And then if I turn it around, it becomes a castle that keeps people out. But then if I turn it the other way, it becomes a bridge with a walkway and places for people to go in.
Joyce, you blew me away. That's awesome. 2 things in one in 2 minutes? That's amazing. That's super cool.
This is by Anne. It's a flower and a vase, a very E-shaped vase.
That's really cool. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Anne.
Okay, welcome.
I think Katie wants to share, my stepdaughter Katie here. Go ahead, tell them what it is.
I got a picture about my family.
What? Can you say that a little louder?
I got a picture of my family.
A picture of your family. Oh, that's great. Well, that's really important. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that with us.
Mhm.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, everybody. All right. That was cool and that was interesting. And some of you guys are super talented and very creative. Okay, so there's a couple of principles that this exercise demonstrates. Why do we do it in 2 steps? The first one was to give you a constraint, something in your way that you had to build around. You had to work around to make it into something else. Without that, you would have had to start with a blank page, which some people find overwhelming. So now that we gave you the shape, everyone had a common starting place and a constraint that they had to work with. And in some ways, so we can see that constraints can be freeing because they give you something to work with, build against, push back. So here's a weird little story to illustrate. A man and a woman meet in a park. They're strangers, they see each other and they start talking and the man says, "Oh, hello there. By the way, does your dog bite?" And the woman says, "Oh no." So the man bends down to pet the dog, but the dog attacks him. And shocked, he says, but you said he doesn't bite. And the woman says, "Oh, well, that's not my dog." Okay, it's attempted a silly joke, but the humor here comes from an idea. It's a concept that it's about bending the frame, right? The man made all sorts of assumptions when he saw the woman, quite normal assumptions that we might all make in that same situation. But halfway through the story, the assumptions are turned upside down and they're shown as false. And that's where the twist is and that's where the humor comes from. The dog is like the shape in the exercise. We assume one thing, or we might think it's one thing, and then we turn the page around and suddenly we see it as something else. We free up our minds to burst through assumptions and come up with something different. So there are experts on creativity, of course, like there are experts on everything. And many of them point to these ideas about challenging assumptions, reframing situations, or connecting seemingly unconnected ideas to come up with new things. For example, another exercise they often suggest is dumping out your trash can and challenging you to make something useful of all the bits that you find there. There are some cool examples of that, but I decided not to ask you to do that this morning because I figured some of you would not appreciate that. But I came up with something else we can try. Here's a new game, might be new to you. It's called Backronyms. I throw out 3 random letters, and then you guys type in the chat and just make up something that they stand for. So it's making an acronym backwards. Just type into the chat box whenever you have an idea. 4 random letters. VCRW. Now I cheated, I chose these this morning. And I thought if you want, you could make them somehow related to church. So BCRW could mean before Christ ran westward, or because Chuck ran the world, or believe children reinvent worship. Not everybody's good at this. I am definitely not good at this. It took me a while to come up with these examples, but some of us are. And so I thought I'd throw it out there and let's see if any of those people are here today. BCRW. Mary Delahanty, butterflies can really win. Dan Franklin, be cool, read Whitman. Karen Gabler, become creative running wild. You guys are all better at this than I am. Ann Noonan, beautiful cow, rockin' women. Erin Hobenaudet, because community really works. Oh my gosh, she's brilliant. Rebecca Mooney, best candy, real world. Viva, be creative, righteous world. Adrienne, between class, run wildly. I've done that. Josh Shortledge, bowling creatively, right way. I chose letters that are hard to pronounce. Patricia Ferris, back congregation, reward one day. Oh, one day, that's kind of cool. Eric and Barbara, being creative with random words. Oh my gosh, they named this. They gave it a new name, be creative with random words. Joyce Rodenhauser, bless children around the world. Absolutely. Martha B, be careful reaching wonder. Janice, best case righteousness wins. Oh my gosh, I think these could go on all day. Chuck and Jane, before cool raw work. Corey Mann, babies create rare wonder. You guys are too much. We should do this more often. I love it. Paul and Michelle, bear claws rend walruses. You know what? And I just had a look at the time. Goodness gracious. I don't know where the time goes on Sunday morning anymore. From Adam, this is going to be the last one. Big candle, runny wax. That paints a picture in my mind. Thank you, Adam. All right. So this is a great example of constraints, working tight parameters. Another trick that creativity experts recommend is to watch kids. Give them any 4 random objects and see what they make. They might build a sculpture or invent a new use for paper clips or come up with a brand new story. Speaking of that, weren't the kids today fantastic? Now, I was going to challenge you if we had time. I couldn't tell how long these exercises were going to take, so I threw in here another one. I was going to throw out the story frames and see if we could build a story the same way they did with the story prompts. Instead, I think what I'm going to do is throw them into coffee hour. So when you guys go into little groups, see if you can write stories together like the kids did. Maybe our friend Beth can put the 7 prompts into the chat now. As I recall, it's once upon a time, every day, but one day, because of that, until one day, and the moral of the story is. Now, you don't have to have 7 people. You could do it with 2 people as our kids demonstrated, or you could do it with 4. It's up to you, but it's a really fun game and it will exercise your brain. I want to get to the point. Why are we doing all this? Why am I recommending it? I bet you can figure it out, but 3 reasons. One, creativity is part of the joy of living. It is our birthright. It is connective. It is fun. And that alone makes it worth doing. And, we don't have to have an excuse to have fun. Sometimes we just deserve it, even in worship. But of course, I have two more reasons. Second is creativity and imagination can get shut down when we are stressed or frightened. For the last 4 years, many of us have felt extra stress. And it limited our possibilities. It shut us down. And many of us stopped hoping. Then in the last year, we've had to live with the pandemic, which was more fear and more stress. And that can make us lose touch with our creativity and our joy. Now, more than ever, it's important for your mental health to practice things, to open up your mind, to be creative again. My last is that imagination is the beginning of living the lives that we want and living in the world that we want. I'll remind you of that quote. We tend to consider imagination too lightly, forgetting that the life we make for ourselves and for the world is shaped and limited only by the parameters of our imagination. Things are as we imagine them to be, as we imagine them into existence. A few days ago, while I was preparing this sermon, I posted in our private church Facebook group this question. Can you tell me about something that you thought was impossible and you were wrong? I got something like 25 responses, and the conversation was so rich and so fun, I recommend it to all of you. The responses ranged from social level stuff like, I thought it was impossible that I'd ever have a computer in my pocket, let alone one that has a universal translator and all the maps in the world inside it. Or, I never thought the Red Sox would win the World Series. Or, I never thought we'd have a Black president, or a racist president, or an insurrection. And then there were the personal level things like, I never thought I'd be an honors student, or a college grad, or a professor, or an author. I never thought I could overcome my fears and be successful. I never thought I'd be a member of a church again. I never thought I could lose so much and survive it and even grow stronger. So much happens in our lives that we didn't imagine, that we couldn't have imagined. The world is nowhere near as predictable as we like to think it is. Anything could happen at any moment, and sometimes it does. And what then? Creativity is how we bounce. It's what happens when life gives us constraints, problems, and shapes that we have to learn to build around or to reinvent. We have to learn how to turn the page around, to see the things from a different angle, to grow our lives around the obstacles. And most of the time we do, with grace and with help. And that's resilience. Maybe you're not good at the game of backronym or good at quickly doodling around a shape or making up a story. Maybe your creativity comes through in cooking or in fixing things or in being an excellent listener. That takes creativity too, because you're reframing, questioning assumptions, swapping perspectives. All of those are key practices of creative thinking. I wanted us to have this moment together this morning to refresh our brains, to boost us in a whole new direction, to jump out of the box, to walk out on a limb together, just so that we knew once again that we could. Even if it's just a silly game, it's good practice, stepping out of your comfort zone, putting yourself out there. You know, I never imagined that Joe Biden would sign 42 executive orders in his first 9 days. He put the climate crisis at the center of US foreign and domestic policy, rejoined the Paris Accord, moved the government toward all electric vehicles. He's shutting down private prisons and reuniting families. He's banning workplace discrimination for trans and gay people. He's reforming immigration and creating a cohesive nationwide COVID policy. He's not perfect, but this is way more than I imagined in the first 10 days. And he's moving at dizzying speed. It's hard to keep up. It's hard to wake up from the fear that we've been living in and let our hearts rise to this moment when so much more is suddenly possible. So much is happening and can happen, stuff that we didn't think was possible a year ago or even a month ago. It feels to me that we've turned a corner, all of us together. There is light just beginning to glimmer at the end of the tunnel. Maybe we can start now to dream again and plan again for our country, for our families, for ourselves, for our church community. What do we want for our future? Imagining it is the first step to creating it. As Thomas More says, the life we make is shaped only by our imagination. Things are as we imagine them into existence. So let us, in this turning moment, in this momentous moment, let ourselves imagine more. Amen. We have a wonderful closing hymn that fits perfectly this morning when the Spirit says, do.
You've got to do when the Spirit says do. You've got to do when the Spirit says do. When the Spirit says do, you gotta do, oh Lord. You gotta do when the Spirit says do. 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 You've got to sing when the Spirit says sing. You've got to sing when the Spirit says sing. When the Spirit says sing, you gotta sing, oh Lord. You gotta sing when the Spirit says sing. 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 You've got to dream when the Spirit says dream. You've got to dream when the Spirit says dream. When the Spirit says dream, you gotta dream, oh Lord. You gotta dream when the Spirit says dream. 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 Got to dance when the Spirit says dance. You've got to dance when the Spirit says dance. When the Spirit says dance, you gotta dance, oh Lord. You gotta dance when the Spirit says dance. 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 You gotta do when the Spirit says do. You gotta do when the Spirit says do. When the Spirit says do, you gotta do, oh Lord. You gotta do when the Spirit says do. 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 Spirit says do.
Thank you, Tara and Tenby. Thank you so much. So before I close out the service, I just want to say Beth has put the storytellers' prompts into the chat. Go ahead and copy them and paste them somewhere else. And I challenge you to write a story in your coffee hour breakout rooms, or maybe with your family, or with your family's Zoom later today. Use it and see it, let your brain do some work. That sounds fun. I mean, it's not work, it's fun. I just want to give us the benediction. Here we go. Creativity is our birthright. Creativity is our bounce. Let us today remember how to question assumptions, reframe situations, find the humor, welcome constraints, build around them and through them, and then beyond, far beyond. Imagining a future is the first step to creating it. Let us, in this turning moment, in this momentous moment, let ourselves imagine more. Amen.